Fundraising and development. Oh, sorry, there's a little delay on my end. Um, Development presentation today. I am Raquel Bueno Morales, she, her pronouns, and I'm one of the National Senior Advocacy Consultants with Voices for Healthy Kids, which is part of the American Heart Association. And I'm joined today with my colleague, Danny Patterson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Patterson. I'm one of the National Senior Advocacy Consultants with Voices, and happy to be here today with you.
So today, Danny and I are going to spend some time walking you through our Power Prism fundraising training, which includes a 10-step approach to fundraising. But before I get started, I wanted to acknowledge that I've been hearing a lot of smaller nonprofits talk about what a hard time it is to fundraise right now. So I really hope the timing of this presentation is just right. But to those of you here who are in that place, I just want you to know that we're here to help beyond this 1 hour we have together today. And at the end of the presentation, I'll review what we can offer, but just know we're here to help. Next slide. All right, so let's dive in. As many of you know, this is the Power Prism, and it's the framework that we love and use at Voices for Healthy Kids. The Power Prism is built on 6 power tools of advocacy that help individuals and organizations convert even the smallest event into a power building opportunity. And each of the power tools can help apply pressure to decision makers to reach our policy goals. So the 6 areas, real quick, to review: research and data collection, coalition building and maintenance, today's focus, fundraising and development, grassroots and key contacts, media advocacy, and decision maker advocacy. Next slide. So today, fundraising and development. Actually, you can go to the next slide. Thanks. So we are going to get started on our 10 steps, and Danny is gonna kick us off. Oh, you're on mute, Danny.
I will kick us off once I get off mute. Hi again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. So, as we start to talk about fundraising and sustainability, one of the things that organizations have to decide is exactly what are you fundraising for? This is a question that everyone must ask. And we know that people will have different starting points. Some organizations are just getting off the ground, and some organizations are a little bit more seasoned at this. But these are questions that you need to ask. What are you fundraising for? Is it for a staff position, the coalition, education awareness? And once you determine that, then you will start your fundraising journey. Next slide. So the other thing you have to do is certainly identify the person or team in charge of fundraising. Um, when you do that, it really helps because that person will be able to make sure that the organization or the campaign is stand on top of their fundraising goals. And when we talk about the fundraising person, it may, if you have a larger organization, be the development person, or if you have a smaller organization, it could be the coordinator in charge of a program or a policy campaign. So you really do need to identify that person. And it also can expand to a team. Because sometimes, when you do fundraising, you need quite a few people because fundraising can be so comprehensive, right? And so, again, you want to make sure that the person in charge of your fundraising stay on top of the goals needed or the budgets needed for your project or your campaign. The other thing we have to realize that while one person or team could be in charge of fundraising, it is really everyone's responsibility in the organization to support fundraising. And we do this in various ways. If you have a board, your board usually have affluence and influence in the community. They help when they actually donate to the organization. That's part of a fundraising effort among board members. When they talk to their friends, the companies that they work for, they're helping with fundraising efforts as well. The communications director is helping with fundraising because when they are able to tell the story of your policy campaign or your organization in the media or through social media channels, that helps with fundraising organizations. People want to donate to an organization that they could trust and that they see are actually doing something in the community. As you're working on policy campaigns, the advocacy director or the person in charge of the policy campaign, as they're talking to community leaders and also lawmakers, they're telling the story of your organization, telling the story of the policy campaign. So they're helping with fundraising efforts as well. So keep in mind, while it may be one person or a team in charge of fundraising, it is actually everyone's responsibility in that organization or associated with that coalition to help with fundraising. The organization or coalition needs to adopt a fundraising mindset, and that's how you're able to raise funds. Next slide. Some of the things that you have to do for step 3 is you want to identify past donors and giving history. You also want to identify and track prospective donors. We want to encourage our grantees and our committed organizations. You want to subscribe to fundraising or philanthropy newsletters or magazines. Look in your local newspaper, in the business section and in the community section to see who is actually donating to specific organizations, campaigns, issues. Google is always your best friend when you're searching for a potential funder or donor. You also want to look at similar organizations, look at their Form 990. It is specific to fundraising organizations, and it tells about the contributions to the organization of similar size, mission. A line not-for-profit can look at this and a line not-for-profit can look at this information to develop their own donors list. And don't feel bad. I know people say, well, if an organization, they may have received funds from the local hospital, and people may say, well, they have that relationship. No, the hospital usually gives to a number of issues and a number of organizations. It's up to you to develop a relationship with that same funder so that you can receive funds as well. And you also want to understand that your donors also donate to a number of organizations and a number of issues. So again, do not feel bad if they're giving to one organization. They could certainly give to your organization as well. You also want to review annual reports. And when you review these documents and resources, start to develop a prospective list of donors for your organization, your coalition to reach out to start building their relationship. And in the chat, Raquel is dropping 2 worksheets that can assist with your fundraising team's use in trying to determine, their donor list. So that information will be dropped in the chat. Next slide. And also, one of the things that organizations need to do is to identify. Let me go back one slide, please. Yes, identify. Oh wait, sorry, I advanced. Am I advancing or? Okay, here we are. We're at the donor versus funder versus sponsor. Sometimes we use these terms interchangeably, but they really do have specific meanings. A donor is usually an individual or a couple that gives to an organization. And often the funds that they're giving to that organization can be used any way that the organization choose to. A funder is usually a not-for-profit organization or foundation that's giving money for a specific cause or an issue or program. And that comes with some more strings. That may come with some reporting requirements from that foundation. And usually there is some sort of agreement with terms and conditions associated with the funds. And as a campaign or a coalition, it's up to you to make sure that you're meeting those metrics for that funder, for that foundation. And a sponsor usually is someone that, or a company that's giving money because they want name recognition, they want brand recognition associated with your coalition, your program, or your organization, and that's a sponsor. Next slide. So the last thing for step 5 is identifying fundraising channels. Um, Early on, you want to identify, what channel you will follow to raise funds. It may mean holding an annual event, a signature event. You could determine if you want to hold that virtually or in person. You can also determine, if this is an annual event or quarterly event. When you look at the American Heart Association, we have 4 signature events, right? We have our Heart Ball, our Go Red from Women Luncheon. We also have the annual Heart Walks. And in schools, we do the Heart Challenge. Well, we have these signature events because they've been tried and true, and we know that these are annual events people look forward to. That's not the end all. That's not the end of our fundraising efforts. We also have donors. We also receive money through foundations, trust. And so you have to develop a donor, a fundraising program that's right for your organization, and make sure it's something that you can sustain. I want everybody to think back to a couple of years ago. Remember when a number of people on social media were doing the ice bucket challenge, right? It was great for ALS. They raised tons of money, millions of dollars in a short period of time, and built awareness around ALS. And it was great, but it wasn't something that was sustainable, but it was still a wonderful way to get information out and to get people involved in their organization. So that was huge. It was a virtual campaign, huge, but you have to determine what type of event or fundraiser can your organization sustain. And so at this time, I would turn the program back over to Raquel for step number 6.
Great. Thanks, Danny. So even before, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. I do see that we have a poll popped up here. Thank you, Andrea, for launching our poll. So I'm going to pause. I know we've gone through 5 of the 10 steps. Wanted everyone to just take a deep breath. And if you wouldn't mind filling in this question. So what do you find to be the hardest part of fundraising and development? And you're welcome to just jot down, a couple of words, phrases, maybe put 2 or 3 of the biggest challenges that you're having, and we will save those for the end during Q&A. So maybe just take 30 seconds to fill that in. Thanks, guys, for doing that poll. What are your 2 or 3 biggest challenges? All right, so we'll close the poll and move on, and I will go through the final 5 steps. So before I was a consultant on campaigns, I was co-executive director at a small nonprofit. And even before we were big enough to have a development director, we really just did all of the fundraising. And this next section is really focusing on the importance of relationship building and communications. And I definitely concur that those two things are really, really important to your success. So one thing we will include in our resource guide at the end is a worksheet called 2793. And it's all about developing your pitch, your elevator pitch. So I won't go through that now, but just know that'll be in your resource guide as we talk about developing your pitch. So building relationships with individuals and organizations and the foundations is really critical, obviously, for you to get the funding that you're seeking. And the more personal the approach, the better. It's really all about articulating your program, or maybe it's your policy goal, and how their contributions are going to aid your organization in being successful. So try, if you can, to quantify the impact of the donor's contributions and really think about building authentic relationships through a variety of strategies. It could be something as formal as an annual report. But if you're a small nonprofit, maybe you're not even doing a formal glossy annual report, and it might be newsletter updates, a postcard campaign. Try and distinguish your organization from the rest, and distinguish what your organization does better than anyone else. Um, so this then for step 7, developing a communications and a marketing calendar, really, while much of fundraising, relationship building, and tracking does fall on executive directors and development staff, there are opportunities to collaborate with communications teams, and maybe it's just one communications person. Um, Development of a fundraising calendar, though, is really going to support a more strategic approach to your fundraising, um, and hopefully will bring more success. But be mindful of kind of natural opportunities for communicating with donors, like the end of the year, holiday seasons, and be sure to invite them to your events when it's appropriate. Next slide. So step number 8 and 9 and 10. So systems to track fundraising activities, implementation, and evaluation. So these last 3 steps are really more focused on determining the best system to support your organization, maintain and track these relationships and activities as it relates to fundraising. So if you're a small team, you might start off with something as simple as an Excel sheet. And then over time, as your fundraising efforts become more complex, you might upgrade to a more sophisticated CRM or client resource management system, such as Salesforce or one of the many other systems. So investment in a kind of software might basically ensure that you can disseminate your messages, accept donations, answer questions, and address appropriate follow-ups with donors in a timely and methodical manner. Next slide. Oh, sorry, actually, it's still the same slide. Step 9, implementation. So this is when it's time to put everything together and implement your plan. So you should set your fundraising goal, approve fundraising activities, and then begin the actual work of raising funds. Now, in terms of evaluation, obviously ongoing evaluation of your fundraising efforts is key to ensure that you're really using your time and resources effectively. Many organizations find that a monthly review of their goals and strategies is useful for staying on track. I think one of the most important steps is to not overcomplicate it, so you actually do it. So maybe to measure, where did you succeed and where did you fall short? what worked well, and then how can you replicate that. Next slide. So building relationships with funders. This is a really important step to take as you look to secure funding. Um, really thinking about building relationships with a diverse set of prospective funders, foundations, individual donors, corporations, etc. And getting to know a funder really helps you as a prospective recipient of funds to understand their mission and goals and vision for giving. And really, this kind of allows you the opportunity. It also, sorry, conversely, kind of allows an opportunity for the funder to get to know you and your organization's work. Next slide. So one piece of that is mission alignment. It's crucial that you really understand the potential funder's mission, values, history, and get a sense of what other campaigns they've already funded. They're often obligated to give their money away in alignment with their vision, with their mission and values. And they often have a board too. So it's our job to create and practice and then deliver the best pitch you possibly can. And one of the first steps, um, as written above, is to get crystal clear on your values and goals. The best grant or pitch is going to come from a place in you that's really in touch with why are you doing this work in the first place, that values place. And the pitch, may it be verbal or written, um, the best, well, if it is written, then it's all about the grant. And the best grant you can write means that you've kind of given yourself the time and space to do all the process of the grant writing, to create it, read it out loud, whatever it takes, revise and revise. And to the bullet number 4 on there's point, it's really your job to find the points of connection, to weave your story in with theirs and bring about alignment in their eyes. So it's less about giving them what you think they want to hear, but more about laying things out as clearly as possible, so that they see clear alignment and they can even feel that alignment. And because either on paper or in person, you've brought like passion and clarity of your project and the urgency of your campaign to them. Next slide. Ongoing communication. So many funders are really proactive and clear about their reporting requirements, and they'll even give you a reporting schedule. But with some funders and definitely with individual donors, you've really got to ask them, what are their communication preferences and expectations? Do they prefer phone calls, informal phone calls? Do they want emails? Do they want written reports? How often? With prospective donors that you really don't know, it's a bit of an art at first, and you've got to intuit the right cadence. As much as possible, you obviously want to keep ongoing communication with your prospective donors. Perhaps something like Nation Builder or Constant Contact might be a worthwhile investment in the long game. A few other suggestions are to follow up with funders on social media, to tag them in your posts if you think that's appropriate. Sending them, like I mentioned before, annual, quarterly reports can help really keep donors informed of the great work you're doing. And definitely don't forget to invite them to your events, if they're virtual or in person. And then that way they can see up close your work and get the opportunity to kind of understand and get a better sense of the impact that their funds are having. Next slide. So mutual respect, clear expectations, and trust. These are 3 really important reminders that apply when funding has been acquired. So really thinking about giving some reflection to the power imbalance, or at least a power dynamic that happens between funder and grantee, And so at every step, kind of thinking about, well, how can you nurture that relationship so it's less transactional? It's important to ensure mutual respect is really at the top of the list. And that means there's clear expectations and a shared understanding as to what the funder wants to see in terms of reporting your progress. A funder sometimes will request that you attend or present on your work at different events. Sometimes they want you to come to like a grantee meeting or an exchange of some kind. And your understanding of these expectations up front will ensure that there's mutual respect. And again, that it doesn't seem like a transactional relationship. And this kind of leads to the second point of clear expectations. There should be kind of no doubt what is being funded, what the target is, and and of course we're always grateful to receive funds. We want to make sure that expectations are realistic, and this is really the job of the grantee to not be in a position where you're over promising and under delivering. Which then leads to my final point of ensuring the relationship is one of trust. So we always want to be good stewards of funds, and really showing that will ensure and build the grantee's relationship among funders. We know that funders talk amongst themselves and they get intel from each other. So really showing that you're a good steward of funds is really important. Next slide. And now I'm going to pass the baton back to Danny. And you're on, yeah.
Got it. Thank you, Raquel. Next slide. We will review the fundraising analysis template. So with this template here, there are some key questions that you should consider in all donor categories. This is something that organizations, coalitions need to keep top of mind. Is the funder's average grant size increasing or decreasing over time? Or are they funding in a specific area? That's something that you need to know. If you received a 5-year grant from an organization and you're looking to apply for additional dollars at the end of your grant period, you have to consider, is the organization still funding that specific program, project, policy, campaign? Are dollars, again, increasing? And with this economy, you never know. Foundations often do not give as much money as they once did before. So that's information that you need to know. Are they awarding the same number of grants? That tends to change as well, depending on the funds available for a foundation or a donor. Are they funding equally, or are some areas receiving more funds than others? Again, that's information that when you work with your funders, be it a foundation or a donor, when you stay in contact with them, stay in communications, as Raquel said, this is information you should learn because it could certainly change the approach with that specific funder or donor. You don't want to end a relationship, but certainly the approach can change. And then also, what's the procedure? Um, everyone buys new technologies. Staff is hired that have a different way of doing things and suggest something new. So you also have to know about the procedure. Staffing levels change. And when a foundation may have had 15 people, they may be down to 5 people. And so they may have to change their procedures for awarding funds. And again, when you work with your foundations and your donors, and if you stay in constant communications, this is information that you will learn. And if you're good stewards, if funders see that you're doing a wonderful job, that's information that they will also tell you in preparation for the next time. But it's also an opportunity for you to diversify your funding. Oftentimes, organizations will get funding from one source and run with it. But you also have to diversify your funding. Look for multiple streams of income for your organization or for your policy campaign. And it may be a combination of a donor, fundraising event, a board member campaign. So always look for opportunities to diversify your funds. Next slide. And so the one thing we want to discuss is building a budget around the Power Prism. And we're going to give you some simple tips or ideas that you could be thinking about for each of these areas of the Power Prism. Next slide. So when you look at the Power Prism and each of its components, for under research and data collection, it costs to run a poll or survey and to hold community conversations. And so as you're building your budget for your campaign, because most of us are dealing with policy campaigns, think about if a funder or a grantor is offering a $100,000 grant, then think about how much of that money you will need for polling, surveys, community conversations. Under coalition building and maintenance, if you want to bring on other organizations that may not be as well funded, will that organization need some support to help out with the policy campaign? And can you provide some stipends for parents? We deal with PN3 issues, right? Mostly. So are there stipends we could provide to parents for their time, especially during those community conversations? Maybe it's a $25 card to a local grocer. So that's where you will build in those stipends. Under grassroots and key contacts, oftentimes we have purchase lists to, especially if we're in a really difficult district, decision maker district. Say if it's the Speaker of the House and you're really trying to move him to schedule a bill to be heard, you may want to buy some lists in his district to reach out to people to bring that support to your campaign and to reach out to the Speaker of the House. And so again, that costs money and something that needs to be budgeted at the very beginning. Media advocacy. There was a time where we bought advertisement on television and on, in radio and newspaper. But again, that's costly. And so many campaigns have moved to social media ads. It tends to be cheaper, but it's still a cost. And again, how much of that funding, that $100,000, will you use for social media ads? And so that needs to be budgeted into your fundraising plan. And then decision maker advocacy. If you want to hold a day at the Capitol, if you're allowed to, some states do not allow lawmakers to receive any type of gift, be it a 25-cent pencil or $100 meal. They just cannot receive anything. Indiana, you can still buy lawmakers lunch, dinner, give them a gift, but you still have to report it. You can still do it here, but some states do not allow it. I know Missouri will not allow it. They can't even give lawmakers a training because there's value to it. So if you're holding a Capitol Day, budget that in as well. How much will you need to bring volunteers to the Capitol if you're going to provide them lunch, if you're going to pay for parking? That's something you will have to budget as well. And then again, if you're holding meals or providing meals to lawmakers, maybe you want to take a caucus out to lunch or bring lunch in. Again, how much will that cost? And you have to be prepared to budget that in from the very beginning, especially with the policy campaign, because you want to make sure that you're leaving no stone unturned for your campaign. And these are all of the components for a successful campaign, and you need to budget for that as well. And we could talk about that a little further. Next slide. So the other thing we want to talk about is making sure that you're fundraising with the equity lens. Next slide. All of our policy campaigns, we do focus heavily on equity. We want to make sure that the communities impacted are included at the very beginning. This is not something you should do in the middle or at the end of a campaign when you're thinking about, oh, we forgot about this community and they're going to be impacted. We need to bring them to the table. It's too late. You should have been budgeting and being inclusive in the very beginning. Next slide. And so how an equity lens work is you want to, we want everyone, I'm trying to make sure I explain this correctly. You want to encourage we want to encourage our grantees through this resource to be intentional and explicit about what is meant about equity, right? Equity, we know in some cases have been a hot funding issue. And especially I know in our southern states, even mentioning the word equity, right, can cause some difficulties for your campaigns. And so we want people to really determine where the equity disparities, you understand where it comes from, why it exists, look at the problem, and then you have to look at the root causes of this. I'll give you an example of a campaign that we worked on here in Indianapolis. We did a sugar-free drink campaign, and we wanted people to rethink their drink and drink more water. And so we know that soft drink companies target Black and brown communities, right? So we had the opportunity to apply for a grant, $90,000 upfront. And we divided the grant into 3 different phases: decision maker advocacy, grassroots, and then we also did an equity component. And we divided the grant 30, 30, 30. So everyone received $30,000. So we made sure to include equity at the very beginning because we know the communities impacted by the campaign were in Black and brown communities. And we hired a firm to really get out into the communities with our message, and they did a wonderful job. And so again, we addressed that from the very beginning. We didn't wait to the end. We allowed the data to drive our campaign. So again, looking at the problem, the root causes, and taking a systematic approach. Next slide. So again, when you're seeking funds, you have to think about the funder. How do they feel about equity? And are they funding the programs or campaigns? Is equity reflected in their mission, their values, and their goals, as well as yours? So again, you have to make sure that you are in alignment. You want to make sure that diversity of grantees transparently available, and there's existing efforts to continue to diversify the grantee pool. So, this is looking at not only are they funding majority organizations, but they also are funding diverse organizations in their foundation. You want to look at that because, again, there could be some alignment there. And is the funder comfortable and skilled about talking about race and ethnicity? And so, again, or health disparities. That's something that when you develop your relationship with the funder, you will find out, and then that will also design your approach to equity in your campaign. We know it's a difficult conversation to have in some communities. We understand that. And you may have to take a different approach to building in equity. It may not be Black and brown. It could be urban versus rural areas. So you have to base your equity approach on the foundation and what they really do hold true. Next slide. And I would turn it back over to Raquel to wrap us up.
Thank you, Danny. Yeah, so as we just have a little bit more time here, I'm gonna wanted to talk about a couple of new opportunities in fundraising and highlight some of those. We know we're in an intense election cycle, and people are talking a lot about donor fatigue, which is likely true. But we also really don't want to fall into the trap of a scarcity mindset, which is really going to stifle our progress. So here's just a few a little short list here I put together of some opportunities I thought we want to think about and highlight. So really think about the growth in the digital giving right now with the rise of digital platforms and online donations. It's really become a lot easier and accessible. There's tools like crowdfunding and peer-to-peer fundraising and social media driven campaigns that allow nonprofits to reach a much wider audience than ever before. We've got reoccurring donations and platforms like Patreon and other monthly donor programs that encourage kind of that recurring giving, and that offer some predictability to nonprofits and predictable revenue stream. Um, there's also it's called Text to Give, and there's different mobile apps that have streamlined the giving process and kind of boosted this whole spontaneous donation um, thread. Also, there's been an increase in awareness and support for equity-centered work. It seems like it's giving some nonprofits that are already linked to social justice and equity their ability to attract donors in that space. And then the last bullet there is emphasis on impact and transparency and data-driven fundraising. I'm seeing a lot more nonprofits kind of adopt a data analytics to understand donor behavior and tailor their approaches and boost their campaigns. Um, Next slide. So this Andrea said she is going to be emailing out to everyone on this in this presentation kind of our robust resource list, because we just referred to a lot of different tools we have available. We've got tons of worksheets. I mentioned the 2793 to develop your pitch, 27 words max, delivered in 9 seconds and covering no more than 3 points. There's just so many great tools out there that we have that we wanted to share with you. But before we wrap up, I wanted to circle back to the list of challenges that you all shared. And Andrea shared with me the list, and there are a few folks that mentioned the same thing, and that is making the ask. And I just wanted to share my own experience. I went from somebody who absolutely dreaded making an ask to now I'm working on a couple of campaigns, and I actually volunteered to make the ask at our fundraiser and to make the ask to an individual donor. And I think part of my journey was shadowing people who already knew how to they had learned the art of making an ask. And I bet you there's probably, YouTube videos and entire classes on the art of making an ask. Um, you know, I definitely shadowed some great people when I was co-executive director of that nonprofit I mentioned. And, one thing for sure that I learned is that when you make the ask, you're quiet after and you leave a lot of room for them um, to respond to your ask. And if you keep talking, then you might ruin, you sort of might lose the moment. But I'm definitely available, and Danny and all of our consultants are available to kind of talk through more about making the ask. Finding time to research donors and foundations, that is really, it is really time consuming. And I recently was part of a group that was doing that. And one thing they did, because they just got this huge list of potential foundations, and it was so big that they ended up doing like a red, yellow, green highlighting. So they just off the bat had all of their advisory board look at it and kind of help distinguish like which are the groups that we least think fall into the green category. And then from there, we actually have a great tool that you can take a more finessed list like that, because you can't do it with too many foundations. But we've got a great tool that you can then ask yourself a bunch of questions and research them. So we'll make sure to share that tool with you as well. So that's just a flavor. It was one last one. I know we're ending here, but it was around just not being shy about the fact that when you're holding a fundraising event, it's really about fundraising. And I think that that comment goes kind of hand in hand with um, the making the ask, and just how it can be hard when you're not used to making an ask, and kind of when it's sort of outside your comfort zone. But I found personally that practice really, really helped after I had shadowed some really, really great, some people who just really had the art form down. And like I said, now I am very confident in making the ask, because, these people want to give money. They want to give their money. So, I think from our perspective, it's like, I have to ask them for money. How awkward, how uncomfortable. But they want to give their money away, and they want to give their money away to, like I said, groups that are really in alignment and where they feel some passion and movement around. And so it's really up to us to nail our pitch and have it be very rooted, like I said, in our values, and be proud of the work that you're doing and want to share that, and then do that ask. But yeah, we can definitely be helpful and hopefully talking you through that. But I just wanted to close and say thank you so much for joining us today. And we will be sure to get out all the goodies that we mentioned. And Andrea is just also putting in here a post survey. So I know some of you were kind enough to fill out the pre-survey, and now we've got the post survey. So we'll leave that up for a few minutes and close.
Well, I think we also want to make sure that there are no questions. Do anybody have any questions or comments? I appreciate Erica for putting in the chat the list of states, all of the states and what their gift laws are, because that's very important to know. Not only at the state level, but also at the local level. There are some local communities that have gift laws too that you should be aware of, because you don't want to get your organization in trouble. So be mindful about these things, especially as you fundraise and host, again, capital days. It's very mindful to be aware of the gift that you could give to lawmakers and what's considered for instance, if you provide lunch, and if lunch is $5.35, and the total amount your organization could give to a lawmaker is $50, then you need to subtract that $5.35. And so that's why it's good information. That's a good resource that Erica added to the chat. And we just want to open it up for any questions.
And we're a small group, so feel free to just come off mute.
Yeah.
Come on camera, or you could drop it in the chat too.
right. Well, thank you, everyone. We hope that you take a chance to complete the post survey and be on the lookout for future voices trainings that Andrea will send out. And we certainly appreciate your time today. And again, Danielle Patterson with Voices for Healthy Kids, I appreciate your time today.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.